We are here at Nutana Curling Club for another exciting edition of Out of the Hack as we make our way towards the Olympic curling trials here in Saskatoon. I am joined by my friend Kirk Muyres. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Blair. This is cool.
So you, of course, are taking part in the Olympic curling trials in Saskatoon. We're getting a little bit closer. You got to be getting excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is like marked on the calendar for years now. It was a goal to get there. It's a goal to win it. It's only about a few weeks out, so really excited to get going and show the city of Saskatoon and Saskatchewan what we got.
Absolutely, can't wait. And the great thing about these segments is we can cover whatever we want really with curling. Last time we did these, we did things like how to slide and how to sweep, and this year we're covering a few different things. Today we're going to talk scoreboard. So I know for a lot of fans, especially the casual fans, the new fans, they may not know how this works. Can you show us?
Yeah, you betcha. So I mean, when you're watching in arenas and on TV, you see a lot of kind of the baseball style scoreboard, so it's really easy to follow along. It's who scored in what end. But in the curling rinks, it's always a little different in the curling rinks, and here it's a little different. So really, the 1, 2, 3, 4, what you see up here is actually the number of points. It's not the end, so it's the number of points. And then each end, you hang one of these. So first end, second end, third end. So these represent the ends. Right. And so really, so in the first end, if red were to score 3 points, it would go up here because of the red rocks back there. And in the second end, if yellow would score 2 points, second end, 2 points. And you just go on like that all the way to the 8th or 10th end, depending on how many ends you play. So in the third end, red might score another 2. You just add it on. So 3, 4, 5, another 2, and there you go. So in the third end, red would score 2. Now it's a 5-2 game, and you kind of run it like that. So it's a little bit different than what you see kind of in baseball and on TV, but it's kind of one of the little neat things about curling that make it kind of traditional, unique, and something hopefully that won't change.
Absolutely, and we see it goes to 12 there. Say Team Dunstone is on a heater. They're scoring plenty of points early, and we're past 12. What do we do? Head to the patch?
Yeah, I think the team that gets to 12 first, you head upstairs. You have a refreshment. That's kind of the deal. If you can hit 12, usually the other team isn't playing that well, and it usually ends a little early. So handshakes before the end of the game.
There we go. And it's the thirds that do the scoring here, correct? Why is that?
That's right. It's a funny thing. I was thinking about that. I'm not sure. The thirds kind of are the ones that orchestrate before the game. They'll do the flip with the other team. They flip the coin to see who throws first. They're the ones that decide on how many points are scored each end, and they're the ones that hang the points. So again, it's one of those things that runs with tradition. I'm sure there's somebody in the curling world that knows why that happens, but it's not me.
There you go. So definitely a fun and informative thing to teach our new curling fans about. And let's talk another thing curling fans see, especially at the higher levels, like the Brier or the Scotties that you would play at, and that is the stopwatch. What is that all about? Yeah,
you betcha. So it's interesting enough. I think people that watch curling may not know it, but the ice that we play on is changing constantly, like literally rock to rock. If a rock goes down a spot and another rock goes down that exact same spot, it's going to be a little bit different. So over the years, curlers have tried to figure out ways to kind of map out the sheet. And a great way to do that is with a stopwatch. So with this stopwatch, we'll time the rocks, usually from the hog line to the hog line to give us reference points, and then we can decide as the game progresses, as we're going from shot to shot to shot, if the ice is getting quicker or it's getting slower. And so it's 100% a device that all curlers at the high level use to map out the sheet so they can continually put the rock on the dot that they want to do, because the ice is always changing. This is kind of a mechanism we use to be able to decipher kind of what's happening on the ice at any given time.
Very interesting stuff. Well, we really appreciate you teaching us, a couple things that obviously curling fans see, but maybe they don't know all the ins and outs of. So thanks a bunch, Kurt.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
We're down here once again at Nutana Curling Club, and I wanted to, answer a question that a lot of curling fans have. I wanted to talk to one of the best seconds in the game, but unfortunately, EJ Harnden couldn't come here, so I have Kirk Muyres with me instead. How are you?
I'm doing well. I didn't expect to get roasted this morning, Blair, but I guess I'll take it.
We got to have a little bit of fun here. So we've each thrown a rock. We've drawn to the button, missed the 4-foot actually, but we're looking pretty close here. Yeah. Tell us about the stick here, the measure, and kind of what goes into it for those that don't know.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, it doesn't happen a ton, but probably maybe once or twice every 5 or 6 games, there'll be 2 rocks that are so close that the teams can't decide on who's closer to the button. Right. So with that, they've invented this, what we call as the measuring stick, long before my time, and it's an amazing little device that we use to decide who's shot rock and who gets the point at the end of the end. I don't know the technical terms, but I believe at the tip here there's a micrometer, I think they call it. Okay. And so that's actually able to be moved depending on how far or close to the button these two rocks are that we need to be measured. So this comes in and out, just like that. And then we can slide this all the way around the rings as well, depending on where the rock is. So the first rock will get set up. We come in, and as we get closer to this rock, the micrometer at the bottom there will just touch, and we go just till it kind of just touches that. We don't want to go too much. We're at the risk of moving the rock. So just so we touch make the micrometer move, and we just touch the granite there a little bit.
And we lock it in. We saw where it was there.
Good call. Yeah, well, so we lock it in there, so that makes it tight to this thing. This no longer moves.
Okay.
And now
that was Kirk's yellow stone there, so now we'll go towards my red stone here.
And so when we swing that around, like you see on the TSN, we're just over 60 notches, whatever that means.
Vic Router, the anticipation would be building here.
And it slides over, and the official has to make sure their head's out of the way for the TV and the cameras. And we'll see. And so that is super close. That's one of the closest measurements I've seen. But it looks like, to me, yellow is just shot. So this will hit just under 60. And if we swing that back around, and it shows you how close these rocks can be. And this is just over 60. So yellow is just shot rock, and so what they do is they move that in to show it, and that's one of those things. So you roast me at the beginning of the segment, Blair, but look who's got shot rock at the end of the day. So I guess I win, eh?
It was worth it. So for something like this, it's the thirds that do it.
That's right.
It's just kind of if they can agree by the naked eye?
Yeah, that's right. So if both the teams can agree, or it's even one of those things, it's kind of like we always talk about, a gentleman and ladies sport. If it's really close, both teams will go, you know what, we should measure just in case, because the reality is the rings sometimes can be out a little bit from the pinhole. Okay. So even if it looks close, you should probably measure, because if the pinhole's out, you know, 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch, that'll make a big difference on the micrometer, and then that'll be help to decide who's closer. The thirds decide on that as well, and then they'll hang the points on the board as we go.
Absolutely, and you want to make sure you're correct, especially, you know, at the higher level, like potentially at the Roar of the Rings, correct?
That's right, yes.
So is there a max amount of times you can do this in a game? It is rare, like you said, correct?
Yeah, it's rare. There's no max amount. Like I said, I've probably maybe seen it at a max of 3 times a game, you know, one in, you know, 1,000 games, something like that. But usually the stick comes out a few times a weekend, as we call it, and then we measure it up and go from there. So it's usually those moments that are quite devastating, because you might think you're shot rock and you might get the point and you end up without it. So it's an interesting dynamic out there, and it definitely gets the emotions going. It's a very pressure-packed moment of the game.
There you go. Interesting stuff. We really appreciate you sharing your curling knowledge with us here.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time on another edition of Out of the Hack as we hurry hard towards the Olympic curling trials here in Saskatoon.
Brought to you by the Tim Hortons Curling Trials. Curling's back November 20th to 28th, SaskTel Center.